When I think of the Sega Dreamcast, I think of a few specific games. Things like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Power Stone, Cannon Spike, Sonic Adventure, and this one, my personal favorite, Jet Set Radio. Today we're taking a look at the HD remaster on Steam. Let's dive on in. As a reminder, here's our ground rules for past two reviews. They're reviewed entirely on their own merit. If a game is older, I won't knock it for not having high quality modern visuals. They're products of their time and should be looked at as such. Also, I'm going to be looking at the games on four specific categories: visuals, sound, gameplay, and aesthetics, which is kind of a catch-all where things like menu design and bonuses and box art go in. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe down below, and while you're there, let me know what your favorite HD remaster of a Dreamcast game is. If you've never played Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio, depending on what region you're in, this is a game about graffiti tagging against rival gangs. Along the way, you're going to have to avoid the authorities and their attack dogs, SWAT teams, and helicopter gunboats. It's a super simple concept that executes fantastically. But now, let's dive a little bit deeper on our four categories. The most distinctive thing about Jet Grind Radio, or Jet Set Radio, depending on your region, like I mentioned, is its appearance. It doesn't quite look like anything else on the market then, now, or ever. From its subtle yet effective cell shading on Beat, Gum, Tab, and every other character in the game, to the slightly askew city that feels like it was transported straight out of a cartoon, the world of Jet Grind Radio is a visual dynamo. I didn't think it could look better than it did on the Dreamcast, but the HD remaster here on Steam amps everything up to the next level by widening your field of view and tightening things up on the character models. There are some slight struggles the game runs into with regards to texture, specifically on characters, as you can see here with this close-up on Officer Onishima, but at this point, we're critiquing a 20-year-old game's texture application. Taken at its own merits, the game is gorgeous. The characters in your gang, the GGs, all have their own distinct appearance and style, which really lends it to the game's personality. From the start, you have three members of your gang. Beat brings the style with large green goggles and oversized headphones, Gum wears a bright green and white dress with a gray helmet, and Tab rocks a blue coverall suit and beanie. There's more characters you can unlock the way, and bonus points for this game, including a Boston Terrier. I am a sucker for the little squish-faced dogs. But besides your unique characters that you get to play, every other group in the game has their own distinct visual style. The Poison Jam gang dresses like monsters with large shark masks. The Noise Tanks look like automatons in brown coveralls, and the Love Shocker gang looks like a punk rock all-girl band that's ready to conquer the city of Tokyo-to. But it doesn't stop there. Officer Onishima is a happy mix between Fish from Barney Miller and Inspector Zenigata from Lupin III, and the different police forces all have unique looks and styles that give them an instantaneously recognizable identity. The city of Tokyo-to is divided into districts: Benten-cho, Shibuya-cho, and Kogane-cho. The districts all have their own flair and visual identity. Shibuya is the home area of your squad, the GGs, and is the most city area of the game. Large half-pipe swales for water runoff, overpass areas, playgrounds, and wide city streets abound. Kogane is a waterfront area with huge drops and long rails to grind, and Benton is a more claustrophobic zone, full of tight alleys and awnings for you to go up and over the police as they chase you through the streets. But the most impressive and important part of Jet Grind Radio is the graffiti. There are over 100 tags in the game, and all of them are just an incredible example of how beautiful the art of graffiti can be. Big thanks to Greg Kennedy, who actually wrote the program to extract all the tag files from the Steam version of the game. That's how you're seeing them now. And as awesome as all of these tags are, you're able to design your own tags as well in the game, and use it for your character. Moving on to sound now, and God, it's a treat. There's incredible music in the game, from a variety of artists and musical styles, from Mixmaster Mike to Rob Zombie, so there's something here for everyone. But crucially, none of the tracks miss. Everything feels like it was carefully curated for the game, as opposed to other games where it's just kind of a selection from a catalog. Everything here fits perfectly, and nothing stands out as being an odd inclusion. It's a masterful crafting of songs that just flat out works. Sound effects, unfortunately, are more of a mixed bag. The sounds in the game for skating, grinding, and spraying are ones you should get used to immediately, as there's probably only 3 or 4 sounds for each, and they're in your ears and very present as you play. They're not bad, they're just repetitive and very, for lack of a better term, plain. They're exactly what you'd imagine if you think of those actions. I know a lot of folks consider this a nitpick, and that's 100% accurate and fair, but when your expectations for visuals are set to expect something unique and beautiful and you're presented with the great value version of the sound effect, it is a bit of a disappointment. Luckily, voice acting redeems a lot of the sound effect problems. While repetitive, keep in mind this is a 20-year-old game, so the sound banks were limited on the Dreamcast media storage of CDs, all the voice cues in the game are solid and sound great. Each character has their own catchphrase that sounds awesome, and the NPCs in the game, whether just the regular inhabitants of Tokyoto, the police, Officer Onishima, or even the dispatcher voice, are all fantastic, and all have their own unique presentation. But the heavy load is carried by Billy Brown as the voice of DJ Professor K, who sets the table for each level and guides you along through the story of Jet Grind Radio as the host of the pirate radio station. From a gameplay perspective, for the most part, things are very solid. There's a very limited control scheme here, so there's not much to complicate. You can boost using the triggers, and you can press a button to start tagging, and that's basically it. Not to say that's a bad thing, mind you. Overcomplicating the control scheme for this game would have been a bad approach, and I'm grateful for the general simplicity of the game. There's unlockable graffiti tags that you can collect in each level, typically in hard-to-reach areas that'll require you to perform some crazy grind or high-speed jump to collect. Now, graffiti tagging itself requires you to collect spray cans. Yellow cans give you 1 spray can to use, blue ones provide 5, and red cans give you a health boost. Tagging requires you to press a button, allowing you to instantaneously spray smaller targets, or enter a graffiti QuickTime event to tag larger ones. Here's where one of my 3 gameplay gripes comes into play. For the most part, tagging is pretty straightforward. You just move the right stick in the pattern indicated on the screen. Sometimes, unfortunately, the game doesn't pick up on your input, and it'll restart you from the first action in the sequence, causing you to lose a spray can. It's frustrating when you know you've done it correctly, and you lose out just because the game didn't recognize what you did. In-game, things are, for the most part, very solid. You skate around the city, grind the rails, perform tricks, and tag marks. It's a very straightforward experience, and the only thing that'll really cause you any grief is that sometimes the camera decides to do its own thing, and you're left trying to reorient yourself as it pops overhead or flies off in front of you, causing you to run into walls, rails, or worse, the police. My biggest frustration, even more than the tagging controls in the camera though, is the lack of notifications of what you're supposed to do. The game notifies you at the start of every level on your objective, and that each thing you need to accomplish will be marked with a red arrow. And while this is technically true, that arrow only really shows up if you're right on top of or within the general vicinity of the objective you need to accomplish. This can lead to you overlooking or flat out missing objectives. And when you're playing a time-based game that requires you to achieve objectives, that can be beyond frustrating when you're just wheeling around the zone trying to find that last spot or two that needs your attention. And while this is a frustration, to be sure, I can't ignore the fact that even with that frustrating moment, I keep coming back for more, because the game is so well designed and so much damn fun to play. And a lot of that comes from the variety of experiences you'll have. You're able to unlock a ton of characters, and each character has their own unique stat arrangement. There's a series of level types as well. There's your basic straightforward tagging levels, either with standard tagging mechanics or against a boss battle. Rival matches requiring you to basically win a game of rollerblade horse or to win a race while tagging. And then in trial matches, you have 3 different matchups. Jet Graffiti is a timed tagging game, Jet Crash is a fast-paced race to a tag point, and Jet Tech is a high-score challenge. Since this is the Steam HD version, aesthetics are kind of hard to come by as there's 0 box art to talk about. So the main thing we can look at are the nuts and bolts of the game's interface. The game features a moving interface where you're able to toggle to different areas of the garage your gang resides in, each with its own distinct appearance and style. It's a pretty thing to experience, and you'll find all kinds of options here, like looking up your leaderboards, your achievements, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, your ability to create your own graffiti. Additionally, there's an entire bonus section of the settings menu giving you a bunch of documentaries and behind-the-scenes videos on the creation and the culture behind Jet Set Radio. While nothing can really replace that initial experience of playing Jet Set Radio on the Sega Dreamcast, this HD re-release on Steam is pretty great. This is a product that should be celebrated and appreciated for what it is. The game is gorgeous in this remaster. And while some of the gameplay experience is weighed down by the fact that it is a 20-year-old game at this point, taken at face value, it's a phenomenally fun title with a timeless design that you should experience at least once. And with it frequently going on sale for under $2 on Steam, you really shouldn't pass it up. It's a time capsule of gaming in the year 2000 with challenging QuickTime events, fast gameplay, a killer soundtrack, and cel-shaded graphics that still feel relevant by today's standards. Is it perfect? As much as I would love to tell you that my favorite Dreamcast game of all time is 100% perfect from top to bottom, it does have its flaws. But warts and all, I still keep coming back to this fantastic game some 20 years after its initial release. But as I mentioned at the top of the video, I want to hear from you. What is your favorite HD remaster of a Dreamcast game? Is it the Shenmue 1 and 2 remasters that we recently got, or the HD re-releases of Power Stone on the PSP? Both of those are fantastic options, but if there's something else out there that you dig, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Let us know what kind of content you like, and we'll keep making stuff like that for you. While you're down there, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we've got going on. Like later this week, we have our 2021 predictions and gaming resolutions for next year. Be sure to check out the card above where you guys can vote on next month's Past Due review. There's some pretty good nominees in there I think you're going to dig. We're on our way to 500 subscribers, and you guys are absolutely the best, those of you that are already here. Until next time, I've been Jay. I appreciate you being here. Play more games, stay square, and take care. We'll talk to you soon.